Hello YouTube, this is Tammy Pie and I'm back with another video. I'm gonna like exercise the there's an old thing that Julie over at Peekaboo Rose did, which is called 5 days 5 VRs. And then actually I think in that original one she actually did a couple mashups together. So the mashup I did the other day was actually her idea before I ever did it. But today I want to start the 5 days with the I don't even know what this tag is called. I think it's like Let Me Reintroduce Myself, but this is by Project Coyote Tarot. And there's a bunch of prompts. It's a kind of a long reintroduction to me in case we haven't met before, which would be shocking to me. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have known me for a really long time before I ever started doing videos, because I was like always commenting on other people's videos, and I've been around for, I don't know, really long time. But where I'm from, I'm American. I was born in California, but I grew up kind of all over the place. So a lot of my formative years were in New Mexico in the Southwest. Some of those years were in Texas. We kind of bounced around Texas, California, more New Mexico, and then when I was about 12, my mom met my brother's dad, and they moved to Hawaii. At first I didn't go because I hated him. But then I came to Hawaii and I bounced back and forth. And during my teenage years, I also spent a lot of time in New York City. I had friends and family that lived there. And I would go there and spend time, like a year at a time. Or I think the most time I spent in a row was about a year. And then, when I finally met my first husband, it was here in Hawaii, and we had 3 children together. He decided that he wanted to carry on this long affair with the neighbor's wife, which for a long time I was like, no, it can't be, no. I lived in and then finally I was like, okay, this is a real thing. And at first, I didn't leave Hawaii, but he made it very difficult for me to stay here. So, I would go home and he and his friends would be in my backyard with the chickens having a drinking party, and it became untenable. So I took my kids and moved to Denver, and spent a couple years getting an art degree. While I was in Denver, I met my second husband, who I spent most of my life with. Our marriage lasted 27 years, and had my last 2 children. And we lived first in Denver for a little while, then I lived in Texas for about a year. I realized it's too hot in Texas. As many advantages as there are to living there, it's just too stinking hot. So we moved down to Louisiana. We stayed in Louisiana for, I want to say, about between 7 and 9 years. And my stepmother lives in New Orleans. He is Cajun. His family's been in Louisiana since before it was America. From there, we moved back up to Washington State. And Washington is where I lived longer in a row than anywhere I've ever lived in my life. So my mother is actually from Washington State. So when we moved up there, it was ostensibly to be closer to family, but living in Yakima is in this weird place in Washington it's like over a mountain range and kind of in like a high plain desert area. It's great for agricultural stuff. They grow most of the hops that's sent out to do all the beer in the world. They do a lot of apples and pears and grapes. There's a lot of vineyards there. But it is also very conservative, and it was really lonely for me. So after living there longer than I had ever lived anywhere, I suddenly realized after all this time, I have no support system. I have no backup. I have no friends here. All my friends are in different places. So now I have left my marriage of 27 years and come to Hawaii to be with my older kids and help with my granddaughter, who was born in October of this past year. And that's me. That was kind of long. Okay, well, not all of these questions will be that long. So how did I come up with my YouTube name? I had already spent a good deal of time on Instagram, and my my email is the Tammy Pie. Tammy Pie. I want to say my mom's youngest brother called me Tammy Pie, and it just kind of stuck. Growing up, my real name is Tamara, and growing up I was Tammy, and my uncle called me Tammy Pie once, and that's been me for a long time. So having that be my my YouTube name, it worked out. It's simple. There's nothing exciting about it, but it sounds friendly. So, and I'm basically a friendly person. I have been reading tarot. What year is it? It's 2025. I've been reading tarot for about 13 years. As a teenager, I studied martial arts, and I had I Ching, the big yellow book, and yarrow stalks. And I would do the coins sometimes, but mostly I did yarrow stalks. And I walked around with the book and the stalks all the time for years until I finally gave them away. And then I never thought again about any kind of divination or anything, but one day out of the blue, my girlfriend sent me a tarot deck in the mail. And her mother runs a used bookstore, and she was actually sending me this like really nice kind of plastic grocery bag that was also like really beautiful, and she just wanted to fill out the gift with something, and it had come into the bookstore and she didn't know what to do with it, so she mailed it to me. So that was my green box Thoth deck, and the rest is history. And that Thoth deck, I got right into it. I just had the deck and the little white book that comes with it. I memorized all the major arcana and the minors. I used to go swimming and repeat the things back and forth to myself. And those early readings were very much driven by the keywords on the cards. which could be really scary, you know, when you get defeat and interference and sorrow. Those deck can be very dramatic, and it was. And so I played around with that for a couple of years, and then I figured out that there was YouTube, and started looking at other people's stuff, and yeah. Do I read for others? Yes, I am one of those people who will read for just about anyone, for just about anything. I have at least one tarot deck or a Lenormand deck or some kind of cards with me all the time. And for me, it is kind of I feel like I'm doing service. I'm a service person. So sometimes, you know, someone will say, "Oh, well, can you do me a reading?" And yeah, sure. A lot of times I do ask for some kind of at least energetic back and forth, like, you know, buy me lunch, or, you know, sometimes people will just offer me money. That's fine too. Or like, if I'm sitting there playing with the cards and somebody sits next to me and goes, "What is that?" I'll give them a short 3-card reading. I don't mind, just to show them what it is and let them know that it's not scary. Because I'm so tired of it being scary. I'm so tired of people assuming that it's like the devil's Uno. Do you use Oracle with tarot? Sure. Yeah, I'll mix up some cards, but I don't all the time. I use just tarot more often than anything else. How many decks do I have? That is a question for the ages. Here in Hawaii, I have probably maybe 130, including the oracles, and in Yakima I've got another 200 decks, which I'm trying to get my son to send them to me. Where do I store my decks? I have, for the most part, a big bookshelf, and that just makes it easier for me to reach over and grab one, because I don't do the whole, these are my spring decks, these are my winter decks, these are my summer decks. I just reach for what I want. I do, up here in the apartment, have like a little storage box on the shelf that I keep at least 10 decks in, and sometimes it grows to 20, and then I got to switch them out. But even then, I find myself running over next door and grabbing something, because it'll come into my head, and I think, "Oh God, I need the Marielle," or, "Oh my goodness, where's Playful Heart?" or, you know, whatever. And I do keep my decks generally in bags. Some of them are still in their regular boxes. But I really like keeping them in bags, because it's easier to grab them, throw them in a purse. It makes them smaller and more compact. What do I look for in a deck? You know, it's funny, because I was in Simon's Cup of Ketchup and Cards yesterday, yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about, every once in a while you start talking about a deck that some people know about and a lot of people don't know about, and one of them was this Kitten Nuggets tarot, which I had noticed because somebody, Moxie's Journal, I want to say the girl from Moxie's Journal had gotten one post the Kickstarter, which means the store has it. So I went and looked it up, and I was like, oh my God, I really, my friend Coco over at Tarot Geek had shown kitten nuggets. And when I first saw it, I was like, are you kidding me? That's so stupid. But then she showed it, and it really is pretty cute and pretty clever. And then, what is her name? She's got this really cool, like, Greek name. Anyway, she showed it again, and I thought, I really, really want this deck. And so that's a cutesy deck. I love a great collage deck. I love beautifully hand-painted deck. I love a deck that has a great, strong theme. I really like pop culture decks. So if I had to pin it down, it just has to entertain me. It has to hit my brain in a certain way. And honestly, there are very few. It'd be much easier for me to say what I don't like than what I do like or what I do look for. I am kind of a cardstock snob, so I do really appreciate good cardstock, but I like all kinds of cardstock. So there's only a few cardstocks that really aggravate me enough to not get a deck. And I would describe my deck collection as eclectic. It is not the newest or the latest all the time, although every once in a while I do grab something up that's brand new and lately. But I more tend to wait for decks to come out on the secondhand market, and I am not quick to jump on things just because 10 people on YouTube said it was cool. So I have my own head around what interests me. Do I have a go-to tarot and oracle deck? I would say my go-to is Thoth. I will also grab up my my spirit keepers, and the one I use the most is the 3rd edition second printing that I keep in the little pearl bag. But those two decks, those are my go-tos. And as far as an oracle, that's going to be flavor of the month for me. And right now it's the Delian Oracle. Do I rehome? And if so, what determines if it leaves my collection? This I could do a whole video on it, and I've considered doing it. I might try doing a tag about why you let decks go. And yes, I sell, I trade, and I have even thrown away decks. There's been a couple of decks that I've had that I was just like, I can't even in good conscience give this to someone because it sucks so bad. I've loaned decks and never gotten them back. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes not on purpose. And I love to trade decks, and I love to get decks on the second-hand market. So to sell them, I think it's providing a service, particularly decks that are OOP. And yes, they're outrageously priced right now. I tend to not be selling my OOP decks at top of market. However, if I am offered a large number, many times I can't resist because I'm older, I don't have a full-time job, I live on a tight budget, and somebody offered me a bunch of money for a certain deck and I'm kind of done with it anyway, I don't see why not. Okay, my practice. What does my tarot practice look like? Daily, location, tools. When do you turn to the cards for answers? pretty much daily, although I have taken a couple of breaks. There's been at one or two times when I took breaks for a couple weeks and once for a couple months, but I came back to it. And yeah, I mean, I definitely not only do a daily practice, which tends to not be like one card pull, although sometimes it is. It tends to be, I'll pull a reading in the morning. And sometimes that reading is, this is how your day is going to be. What kind of energy do I need for the day? Just what is this? What are these cards saying to me? And sometimes I'll leave those cards on the table and come back to them later, and they'll mean even more. But I do tend to, because I have decks with me all the time, I have a couple decks that are enhanced playing card decks that I'll sit and play solitaire with, and every once in a while, like a deck like Nelly or like Primero, you can play solitaire with them. Nelly more than Primero because it looks more playing card, and then you could be sitting there looking at it and suddenly realize, wow, this is a reading, which is very cool. I really enjoy that about that kind of a deck. And sometimes I'll just be playing with my decks, or sometimes people will call me up, hey, can you give me a reading for such and such? Or, my daughter will walk in and say, can I get a reading on this? Or my son will say, well, why don't you just throw some cards for it? Even if it's something as mundane as, should I take this direction or this direction to go to work today? Should I go here or go here? Should I talk to this person or go over here? Should I, go to the garden or go to the pool? And sometimes I will just take a certain deck and go to the ocean and sit by the ocean and throw cards and play around with it. And I'm just a card person. My whole family plays games, and they play word games, perquacky, dice games, dominoes, card games, board games, all the games. We play all the games. So, and what does a typical tarot reading look like for you? So, for tarot, many times 3 cards, sometimes 4 cards, sometimes 5. I'll do a 9-card box once in a while. I'll do Romani, where I'm just drawing cards and keeping going. But more often than not, 3 or 4 cards. Sometimes just 2 cards in an oracle. I do like to do a Lenormand. I think I posted on Instagram a Lenormand spread this morning. 9-card box. I am not above sitting on the ocean wall and doing a whole grand tableau. If I'm in a good position to do it, where my cards won't blow away or get wet. I will do just a 5-card of Lenormand. I'll just pull like 3 cards of Lenormand just for practice. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay, YouTube and YouTube content. What kind of content is your favorite to post and watch? I love VRs. I love to follow the hashtag and look at everyone's VRs. I love when new channels start up. I love watching my old friends doing new VRs. I like seeing old VRs come back around. The one that Chanel Days did is coming back around, and I really like that. That's just a lot of fun. But I also like to explore a deck. It's really fun for me to do something like what I did with the Supernatural deck, which is watch the entire series and then have this deck with that layered on meaning, or the Star Trek deck, same thing, or with this latest Minchiati Bombarza and her whole book that she wrote, starting out with, I used to play this game with my grandmother. That is so cool and so fun. Or the Robert and Place, let's look at this deck that is liminal. It's right there on the edge of when this was just a game and when this became divination, right? So interesting. And I do love like really good books on stuff like this, like by Rachel Pollack. I like 78 Degrees. Benabel Wen has written some really good stuff, and Camellia Elias, I dig her. Tom Benjamin, all these people, I love them. When did you get into creating a YouTube channel? So I think like about a year and a half ago, I just started thinking, there's not enough people showing this, and this, which is kind of my content. My content is, I am not afraid to show the out of print decks, because I think there is an audience for, let's look at out of print. And it made me sad that so many people were saying we're not going to show out of print because they cost too much and they're too hard to get. Well, some people enjoy the hunt. Some people like to go out there and hunt and seek for this exact deck at this exact price. If you listen to, there's a few channels that talk about it a bit. So I decided I was going to do that. Also, I felt like there was not enough Thoth love. So, Thoth love, Diane. And I don't know. It's my social life, kind of. I really enjoy YouTube and the people that I've met, even in real life. I've met a bunch of YouTubers in real life that are just as charming in person as they are on YouTube. Knowing what I know now about YouTube, is there anything you would do different? I would have started earlier. I wish that I would have started. Well, I have one YouTube video that is way back, like 6-7 years ago, and I wish I would have just started doing videos then, but at the time there was a lot going on and I didn't have it in me. So you can't change the past, can you? You can only change the future. So that is now, and that's what I'm doing is from now on. This line that's right in the middle between this color and this color is making me crazy. So, excuse me. So anyway, yeah, really appreciate this, because I don't know that I've done anything exactly like this before. So thank you, Annette, at Project Refined Life, and thank you for coming.